Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me today, everyone, with the Catholic Money Mastermind. I'm your host, Ben Martinek, and I'm joined together by three other advisors from the network. They've all been on the podcast before, so none of them, they all should be friendly voices and faces. But our episode is a special one. It's one in which we haven't had yet to date, and it's really our attempt to explain to folks maybe who are just curious about the financial services industry as to what's it look like to be a financial advisor. But really more specifically, even if you're not just curious, but perhaps you're even thinking of doing a career change or pursuing this as your line of work, wanting to know what does it look like to have a career in financial services. And, we have alongside ourselves, alongside myself, a number of advisors who have been in the industry collectively a rather lengthy time. I didn't actually ask this ahead of the call, but maybe just as an introduction for each of you, we'll let you guys just say hello to the audience. Could you share a little bit about your the amount of time that you've had in the industry for all interested parties? I know that I've been in financial services for around 12 years, 13 years now. What about yourself, Bryan? You're to my right on the video. How long have you been working in financial services?
I've been 13 years.
All right, so you and I are similarly situated in our experience. What about yourself, Lance? How long have you been in financial services?
33 years.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, Lance. All right. We'll leave you plenty of time to share and say. However, this is like almost triple our experience. So I think you might have a couple things to share with the audience. Well, what about for you, Charlie? How long have you been in the industry?
Yeah, so I started in 2009. So what is that? It's going on 15 years.
Okay, well, we're fairly equally situated, except for Lance, who's definitely the leader amongst us in his work commitment and time.
Maybe our Yoda.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I don't know, Lance, maybe we'll just have to kick it off to you. So, commonly I get questions from other advisors or folks who are thinking of joining the network, and a lot of times they just want to sit down and meet with me for coffee and say, hey, Ben, so kind of thinking of doing this, but I'm not really sure what I'm getting myself into. And I don't know, what do you do? What's work like? Like, what can I expect for myself if I want to go this way? And maybe if there's a whole number of things associated with what do you do, but perhaps just like in terms of actual work committed, in your 33 years of experience, Lance, what is the day-to-day life of a financial advisor like in your experience?
Wow. Day-to-day life, it's going to depend upon, what area that somebody might want to focus in on. So life will look much different, for instance, at a large wirehouse like a Merrill Lynch versus a small registered investment advisory firm. With that said, I was reading something that one of our, Kitsis, he's a writer that's within our industry. He said that typically most advisors spend about 9 hours of business development, maybe about 5 hours of investment management per week, about 4 hours administrative each week, 3 hours professional development, 4 hours in management, and then the rest of the time, which is about 26 hours with direct client activity. So that might be things like meeting prep, creating financial plans, servicing clients, or meeting with current clients.
Yes, I think that's, Lance, go ahead, bud. Yeah, sorry for cutting you off.
I was just going to say one last thought there. Just what I found also interesting that financial advisors spend their time differently across industry channels. So in our industry, we have pretty much 3 channels. RA firms, RA-based firms, I should say, spend a lot more time in front of their clients, is what the Kinsa study showed, while the broker-dealer firms spend nearly twice the time amount of prospecting than RA firms, and the insurance-based firms spend at least, just nearly 3 times the amount of time prospecting than they do with clients for RA firms. So I found that very interesting.
And real quick, Lance, for those who don't know, what's a broker-dealer?
Our industry is in 2 different, it's regulated by 2 different industries. One's by the Securities and Exchange Commission and one's by FINRA. So a broker-dealer firm is regulated by FINRA, and then other firms such as registered investment advisory firms are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up there, Charlie. And thanks for that background, Lance. I mean, there is two regulatory bodies in the financial advice industry. And depending on which regulatory body you fall on, well, I suppose the regulations differ. And then really the response of business practices of firms under those regulations differ as well. And that's largely a question at the heart of it as to whether or not the compensation of the advisor is coming through as fees directly paid or billed by the client, or if there's a commission kickback or product arrangement that the advisor is receiving for the sale of an insurance or an investment product most commonly. And then because of the sales component, there are some differing regulations as to what you can and cannot do, and really how you go about promoting yourself as well. So, and then somewhat, to that point, I think, Lance, maybe just to continue on with that, depending on whether or not you're in a more commission-based arrangement versus a more fee-based arrangement, what you do and how you service clients will vary quite a bit. And, quite honestly, if you're in this sales-based arrangement, much more of your activity is really sales-driven or sales-oriented, which is what you were alluding to with Lance, that you could be just spending a large portion of your time, perhaps as much as 75% of your time, really working as a salesperson, just connecting with people, having conversations with them, and seeing if maybe what you have to offer is a good fit for their situation. So it tends, prospecting, if you're not familiar with that term, is largely sales calls is what's intended by that. So that's a very huge difference, Lance, as you know, between what you would spend in a day-to-day in one arrangement versus in the day-to-day of the other arrangement. So that's good information to know. Bryan, for you, I mean, what comes to mind for you as part of the day-to-day life of a financial advisor?
I like to say one of the, I think, aspects of the job I really like is each day presents itself its own challenges, its own excitement, because when it comes down to it, as Lance alluded, a good portion of our day is servicing the clients we have or going out to finding other clients that we can serve. And so as we know, no two people or couple or individual is the same. So a good portion of my day is responding to the needs of either of those clients, potential new clients or current clients, as well as spending time thinking of new ways to continue to serve or to better serve those have been entrusted with. So that's one of the aspects of the job I really love, though, is the variety that comes with each day.
Sure. I mean, maybe leading or following up off of Lance's point, you don't spend 100% of your time pursuing one activity. And as much as we think of ourselves as financial advisors and financial planners, the actual amount of time spent in financial planning activity specifically is not 100%. It's 50 to 75%. I think, Lance, you had said it was 26 hours out of maybe 40 hours, with a lot of the work actually not so much on the advising or planning side, but just in client activity. So perhaps just one takeaway from this, and I'll kick it over to you, Charlie, to chime in. It's like, if you want to go in this work, you got to be comfortable meeting and talking with people, because you're going to spend a large portion of your time, probably at least 50%, chatting with people either about who are current clients and have various needs and what's going on in their financial money situation, which tends to be very personal. So really it's their personal situation, or you're talking about people who might be doing that service for you. I mean, you'll spend probably as much as half of your time doing one of those two things. What do you think, Charlie? Does that ring true with your own experience with just needing to be conversational and being able to connect with folks?
Yeah. Actually, I'll pick it up where you left off, Ben. So I think that it depends on where you want to go to. So a lot of people in your industry are solo advisors, where you only work for yourself. You are a man or a woman of many hats. You have to do it all. However, most people start in the industry working for somebody else or working from a big firm or somewhere along those lines. The days are more structured that way. You're going to have more meetings with your direct supervisor, talk about what you're doing, maybe have a Monday meeting, then you go for the week, whatever it may be. But when it's, and that actually with what Ben said there too, is you could work for somebody and never have to talk to clients. If you want to do all back office stuff, or what back office means is not client facing, so the back of the office, where you work on plans and you respond to emails, you do all the analysis, the data gathering, everything. You don't have to talk with a client if you don't want to. If that's what you want to do, you can definitely be in financial advising and be a back office person. Most likely you will never be what's called a quote unquote financial advisor. You might be what's called a paraplanner or something. And a paraplanner is more advisor or assistant. Think about that. But at the end of the day, you don't have to worry about meeting people if that makes you nervous or anything, and you're really good with data analysis and everything. You could be completely in the back office. However, most people they start out in the back office and they get some experience, and then they want to serve people in the front office as well. Front office means meeting with clients directly and talking with them and learning about their wants, their needs, and getting all the information so they can bring it to the back office so they can run the plans. And if you're solo, you get to do everything. So you get to do the back office, the front office, the admin, the data gathering, everything that you can want, and the accounting behind everything, and all the stuff that you don't really think about as a business owner. So what I would say though is it's not just for the people who want to be client facing. You can really make your own way in financial planning any way you want. It could be, whether it be sales in a bigger firm and that all you want to do is sales, you can do that. Or whether it be data analysis on the other end of the spectrum, you never want to talk to a person, you can do that. So you can really make your own ticket.
Yeah, to some extent, then to your point, Charlie, this is, it's just what's a good fit for your personality type. I mean, if you really like connecting with people, there's certainly need and value with that, but a lot of your work is probably going to be more in that sales component, which not everyone's well suited for. And, that's just a matter of being someone who enjoys having conversations and shaking hands and seeing the next person. So definitely more extroverted in nature as a tendency. But then if someone wants to just get nerdy and, read up on tax law or run the numbers or try to get everything to reconcile and come together, to square up, perhaps you're an accountant by training or aspire to be one, then there's plenty of room for more of a quiet solitude and data-driven arrangement. But maybe just, so the full spectrum of financial advice and is broad, whether you're working with institutions or ultra wealthy clients or just your daily, mom and pop, if you will, or small family arrangements where people are just looking for some help on, I don't know, do I have any missing gaps or holes in my financial situation? Can you look at things and give me some direction on maybe some items that I consider? More specifically within our network and with even amongst the group here, I think all of us really work one-on-one with individual tax payers, a husband-wife, small family arrangement or something of that nature. It's more personal in nature and not as institutional, which again, it could be institutional, but that's not really our wheelhouse or our area of focus. Do any of you have maybe particular clients that you're working with? We'll kick it back over to you, Lance. Like, how have you found it to work for your business?
Real quick, just want to know, for the jargon of institution, maybe we should define what institution means.
Well, what I'm meaning by that would be, it tends to be more of money management or investment management. And we're talking about maybe endowments or a formal corporate entity or office. Perhaps maybe you're running a pension plan for someone. It's the management or the investment of this corporate entity's money and not belonging to either a single family or more so an individual. Is what I would be intending by institution. Does that resonate too for you, Charlie? Is that what you guys are thinking when you think of institutional money management?
No, I thought that was good.
Yeah, that speaks. And that, I can think here in the local area, we've got a state pension. And so if you're a money manager who's buying and selling stocks or bonds or funds for that arrangement, and you're usually meeting with the board once a quarter and have reports you need to be running and all this stuff. It tends to be more formal in its arrangement than expectations. What I enjoy for working with one-on-one in couples is just the sheer variety of what you'll see with the couples. but also connecting and getting to know them. It's just more personal. And many of our clients, it's not just a business arrangement. It's, we're professionally, but we're friends, of sorts. We've gotten to know people fairly well. So maybe to speak to that, Lance, how have you seen the personal side of financial advising or planning?
Yeah, I really, really enjoy the personal side of financial planning tremendously. And what's interesting is when I first got into this industry, that's all I thought the industry was this personal side. And I had no idea how broad the actual industry was. And as the decades continued unraveling, I continue to learn more and more as far as all the different nuanced areas that one can go in as a financial advisor within our industry. So it was relieving to me just to see how many different directions that somebody could go with as a financial planner. So I found that to be really, really neat. But you're right. I think probably one of the biggest rewards that all of us have within this industry is being of service to people, making a difference in people's lives, and helping them in areas that are very meaningful to them. So oftentimes our clients have some anxieties over different issues, and where we can help reduce those anxieties or even sometimes eliminate those anxieties is huge. I know, like, as a quick example, one of my favorite things, and it's also some of the most intense times, is when one of my clients passes away, and then I need to step in and help the other client as far as through that process and how much value we can bring to that client and how rewarding it is to be of service to them and just pour ourselves out in helping them. And it's just so meaningful. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that's interesting, Lance, because, maybe just as a juxtaposition to the institutional side where perhaps you can hide emotionally behind policies and procedures and protocol. On the personal side, there's just much more of a sharing of your emotions, on your shirt sleeve, so to say. And, we will see, people go through various challenges. Maybe it's a job loss, maybe it's a loss of a spouse, maybe it's a forced relocation, things that really maybe have you take a step back. Of course, that's all the negative. We see the positive sides too, where we see folks having babies or grandbabies, their children getting married or going off to college, or just the rewards of a successful career and accomplishments and promotions. I mean, it's both a combination of highs and lows, but people celebrate with us, or they grieve with us just as much as well. And I maybe to kick it over to you, Bryan, here in a second, but I mean, I know that there's been several times in which before anyone else, someone has told anyone else about being pregnant, they've told me first, wanting to let me know about, what are the financial implications or ramifications of this? Just want to let you know. And it's like, wow, okay, thanks for letting me in on it. But like, that's a very personal thing. There's some people who won't even tell their parents. I'm some of the very first. So, Bryan, have you had similar experiences as you've worked with clients?
Oh, definitely. Whether it's great news like that, or sometimes it's on the other side, being one to first know that maybe a client's health has changed, or maybe one thing I'm unfortunately bumping into all too often is maybe some cognitive decline in a client. And sometimes you hear that through a grown child or the other spouse. We're definitely, I think, picking up on the theme that we are really let into our clients' lives, the great parts and the not so great parts, which really I think feels like a high calling in many ways. But yeah, definitely have been received news, and sometimes it's really often unexpected. So I think as a professional, to be able to empathize with the client, but also sometimes hold your own emotions in check to be able to serve them through that difficult time is, I think, one of the art in the challenge of our profession.
For sure, yeah. There's definitely a fair amount of sharing, and sometimes that's difficult. But in a lot of ways, that's what they're paying us for. Is they're wanting some objectivity, some rational guidance, and some direction. And And, as much as we are involved with their situation, because it isn't necessarily our money or our life directly either, we can keep a clearer head, I think, in the midst of some of the decisions that lay ahead. That's particularly true, I think, in some investment management. But Charlie, have you found that to ring true where part of your work with the client, I know they share this with me a lot. I just need a sounding board, and I want someone just to double check my thinking and make sure that I'm going about this the right way. Have you seen this kind of a similar response or reaction within your clients as well?
Yeah. And I think that there's different types of clients that you're going to deal with too. There's clients that want the hand holding and want everything, and they want to know about everything and all the education. On the opposite end of the spectrum, there's clients who don't want anything. They just want you to tell them what to do and do it, and that's it. They won't want any meetings throughout the year. It's just one and done. And then in the middle, there's clients who are a mixture. Some are DIY, who, like Ben said, they want that second opinion to making sure they're doing the right stuff, a sounding board who can play some stuff off you, be like, is this a good idea? And as a financial advisor, you can decide how you want to help people. Like for myself, I don't want to give any advice on individual stocks. That's just not what I do as a financial advisor. And that was my choice. But there are financial advisors that can be like, yes, go buy high, go buy low, go sell high, go sell low, whatever it may be. And I'm being kind of cheeky about this, but when it comes to buy high, sell low. But when it comes to the individual stocks, you can do that as a financial advisor. If there's finances and stocks and the market that just really interests you, you can really tailor your practice like that. And if you're like, no, you know what, I want to be more of a planner than an investment manager, you can tailor your practice like that too. Or you can find a practice that kind of resonates with how you want to deal with stuff. And some clients, like that was saying, some of it resonates with the type of practice that you have. Some were like, oh yeah, I want to try to make as much money as possible. Give me the best investments. Other people are like, it's part of the puzzle. And it's all how you want to structure your practice and structure your career in financial advising.
Yeah, Charlie, I think that's a good point. At the end of the day, each of us has to work as an advisor, and we don't always come, even amongst the four of us, I'm sure we don't all agree on how to handle or do things. It's almost like a chef coming up with a different take on how they want to cook the fish that night or whatever it might be. So there's a bit of an art to this that we all have our preferences. And so when a client comes to work with us, they're very much looking, whether they realize it or not. I think what takes a play is it a good fit? Am I the right fit for the client? Is the client the right fit for me? And are we going to get along? And, it's the advice that I'm only going to deliver going to be advice that they want, and if there's not a good fit there, if I'm going to be a passive broad market index approach and this person's wants an active management individual stock selection, I think it's probably just best for us to move on and realize that between ourselves, because we're just not going to get along over the long haul. And this isn't going to be a good relationship. So part of, I think, coming into this industry is starting to come to your own conclusions on what good advice is, and that should be backed up with hopefully years of study and credentials and conversations with other advisors. But I think we're each going to start to come up with what we think is the right course of action, and then we'll advise our clients accordingly. So perhaps maybe just as a shift, so moving away from talking about the day-to-day life and just like the spectrum of what does financial advising look like for advisors, what does it look like if you want to get started? If let's say someone is interested and they're like, yeah, this really seems like a good fit for me. What would you recommend? We'll go and kick it back over to you, Bryan. What would you recommend for the next steps to get underway? What's the next, how do you get into this business or this industry?
Some of it depends. So let's just take an example of someone early on, young person, late high school, early college, who has come across through a family member, family friend, financial planning, very interested. There's definitely a growing number of actually undergraduate degrees within financial planning that one can go ahead and actually study as their undergrad degree, get kind of the full range of education to really set themselves up that when they get out, to be able to land themselves into an entry-level position within the field. Or maybe even be prepared if they want to start their own business from day one, to be able to get out and at least have the financial planning knowledge to be able to advise clients Many others, including myself, we actually stepped into financial planning from a different career. And for many, you have to, that transition, you're still working, and maybe you're full-time in that other industry. So there are definitely a variety of online programs if you need to get that education for financial planning, to be able to make yourself marketable from that perspective. But I would say I guess I took kind of an education lane there. I think there are a few different paths from there. Maybe I'll let Charlie and Lance talk a little bit about other ways to get into the industry, just through networking or getting to know other people who are in there.
Sure. So perhaps we've caught someone early on enough and you're in college and even maybe as young as a freshman or a sophomore in college and you're looking to get into this. I mean, you could pursue a CFP curriculum or a financial planning focused major. Not something when I was back in school, I think something was even around, but it is starting to pop up and become an area of focus or field of study. So, if you're young enough and you're hearing this, then by all means, if this resonates with you, that's definitely one way to get things underway. But I'm a career changer as well. I'm not sure about your situation, Lance. I think you are too, but maybe could you share a little bit, like, let's say you didn't start off having a college background in this, how else would you maybe approach getting into the business or the industry?
You bet. There's a variety of ways that people do get into the industry. And I would pick people or a whole bunch of people's brains as far as how they got into the industry. I was a career changer too. Right out of the Navy, I joined a financial services industry firm and started my financial planning career back in the early 1990s. So with that said, most common is as mentioned, starting to pursue study, looking at it, starting to talk to people that are in the industry. And that's probably the biggest thing, networking with people. And it'll give you a better idea as far as how the different financial advisors work, whether you're in that broker-dealer side or on the insurance side or on the registered investment advisory side. It'll give you a very different flavor and what they all do. And so after just talking with lots of different people, you will be able to find your way into the industry if it's something you find of interest to you. There are lots of entry doors for people that would like to get into this industry.
Sure. So, I mean, you could listen to this podcast and we can give you some points and perspectives, but at the end of the day, just connecting with other advisors, as you're able and finding out maybe if they have openings or they have some guidance or maybe you're looking to find a good connection with this person and, possibly, starting, just looking at, I suppose, job openings, I mean, let's just see if there's a firm that's advertising for help. And, it's just the old tried and old, or what's the expression? I'm blanking on it. But
tried and true.
Tried and true. There we go. Thanks, Bryan. The tried and true approach of just, go and get yourself a job and, let's see if it's a good fit or if you land well. Charlie, what about you? I mean, what stands out? I mean, so we're thinking of professions and networking. We're thinking of college education. I mean, something that comes to mind for me partially is designations, but yeah, do you have any thoughts? I mean, what would be your take on, maybe like professional areas of focus? Like should someone be thinking about if they want to, start to go deeper in this space?
Yeah. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about before is what are your interests? So we talked about stocks and investments, and as far as certifications go, there are financial advisors with a CFA, a chartered financial analyst, and that is all about investments, finance. Then you can also specialize in taxes too. You can either be a CPA, which is a certified public accountant. You could be an EA, which is an enrolled agent within the IRS. And then coming from before what we talked about, do you want to be doing taxes? Do you not? Taxes go hand in hand with financial planning. However, there are a lot of financial planners who don't do taxes. We just say, talk to your accountant. Either way you want, it's this practice that you want. Obviously, with taxes, there's more certifications, there's more knowledge, there's more what's called CE or continuing education that you need to get each year to stay current with current tax law. So it does make your practice a little bit more complicated because instead of trying to smile and dial or meet with clients, you do have to build in the hours that you need each year, each 2 years, each 3 years. So think about that. Also, when it comes to certifications, a CFP, that is a certified financial planner. That's about the gold standard of certifications in the financial planning world. So that is the CFP board oversees that. They're trying to make that what financial planners get. I believe everybody on here is a CFP. Is that correct?
I believe it is. That is accurate as well, Charlie.
Sure.
But I mean, it's common to be CFPs, but it's not universal.
You don't have to. Correct.
That's right. I wouldn't put it as exclusive, but if you were serious, I would highly recommend it. I think moving towards the CFP, Certified Financial Planner designation, is a solid step in the right direction if you want to move in this.
Sure.
This business.
And there are competing designations too with the CFP. The AICPA or the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants has what's called a PFS designation. That's a personal financial specialist. That is their arm of their personal finance division. So you can most certainly, if you're already an accountant or you're a CPA or you've worked in public accounting or anything, you're thinking about this, you can look at the PFS designation. And if you do have other certifications like a CPA or an EA, you can also challenge the CFP exam. That's what I did. So I'm a CPA by my background. I started out in public accounting, and then I decided, you know what, I really want to help people with my CPA. So that's how I found out about financial planning. And I challenged the CFP exam, where you don't have to have all the schooling. You do have to do, at the time, you had to do a capstone course, which is kind of a big course where it takes everything you learned as a CFP in the curriculum and puts it into like a final project. But that's all you have to do if you want to challenge it. So that's a neat option if you are thinking about something, if you already put a lot of work into other designations, whether it's a CFA, a CPA, an EA, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, Charlie, I think that brings up, thanks for all that. It brings up a good point. Like, okay, we've kind of talked about how we work and interact with clients, but what is it that an advisor needs to know? It could be taxes, it could be investments, it could be estate planning, it could be, it could be just budgeting, or it could be insurancing. Like, what, Bryan, I'll kick it back over to you. I mean, what's kind of the things that stand out in your mind that you've learned the most, or do you gravitate to some areas as subject matter expertise, that you find more interesting than others? And have you built your business around that, or what's just kind of the spectrum of the knowledge that you've had to pick up in order to be a good advisor?
The bulk of the clients I work with are those who are approaching retirement or early on in retirement. So one, that's a great area of interest, but really marries a lot of cash flow planning, especially having someone going from a paycheck they're used to an employer to going to their portfolio or other income streams to cover their expenses, to understanding, many retirees are in a different tax situation. What are some things they should consider on their way out of their current job as well as into retirement? So a lot around tax planning. And then as clients age and get older, and many of them are very comfortable, maybe in their financial position, turning a lot into ways in which they could help out their family, whether it's children, grandchildren, local charities, and really just think about, kind of from a legacy, how they want their wealth to get passed on or to be utilized. So a lot on estate planning, basic just gifting strategies, to even more complex kind of gifting, strategies across generations. So those are kind of the areas I find I spend a lot of time with on my clients.
Sure. So thanks for sharing that, Bryan. I mean, that's to speak to some of that a little bit. I mean, folks are either accumulating wealth or they're decumulating wealth would maybe be a way to describe some of that. And so if you're usually in the younger stages, you're looking at, putting money away and building out your savings and increasing your net worth over time, ultimately to some point of independence or retirement. And then we're looking at how do we transfer that wealth once converted from income, now bring it back into income and go down. And so that has its own unique challenges depending on which side of this that you are focusing and working on. But it's not just simply an area of subject matter expertise that you're focusing in on. It's also attracting and how do you get those clients, maybe who are on the brink of retirement. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the marketing side, but before we do so, I'd still like to just speak more, maybe Lance or Charlie. Lance, we can kick it over to you for, is your practice similar in that it has a focus in retirement planning, or what's your subject matter expertise or of interest for you?
Yeah. So I found working with small business owners is super, super rewarding and very, very, well, it's just so rewarding. And what I mean by rewarding is that there's just so many things you can do with a business owner. And so it just opens up the door to really move the needle. Typically business owners are first thing they say, Lance, I'm looking to reduce my taxes, and my accountant is not helping me with that because they seem to be looking at backward stuff and not trying to look forward to help me. What can I do to reduce this year's taxes and next year's taxes? So that's where I found my specialty is working with business owners and then helping high income earners reduce their tax liabilities. So when we were able to reduce their taxes down by half, as an example, they are just ecstatic and very, very grateful for that. And we do that typically in coordination with their existing professionals, like their accountant and their attorneys that they might have on staff also.
Yeah, so that's I think a solid answer. I mean, what the kind of the business that we build out, we have to be meeting the needs of the clients, and the needs, it really, as Charlie's been echoing throughout the call, it just varies. And so ultimately, if your business doesn't, as a model, doesn't meet well with the clients, you're going to, the two of those have to connect well together in order for the business to work at a very basic level. And maybe just to speak to that before we kick it to you, Charlie, I mean, there's, you just can't, you can't serve everybody. And I know, having come from a background of initially working in theology and in philosophy and having a pastoral priestly formation, there's a part where you want to work with people. I mean, it's a shepherd's heart, if you will. But the reality is that this is a business, and there's 8 billion people or so in the world, and you're not going to address the financial needs of all 8 billion in the world. It's just not going to happen, no matter how big of a heart you have. And so businesses work best when you have a very special area of focus, a niche in which the service that you provide really speaks to the need that the client has. And so identifying that area and then promoting and broadcasting yourself in it is really a crucial part of seeing success in the business. Charlie, maybe if you could speak to that, have you found that to be true as well? Or what's some of your own story in finding your area of specialty in this work?
Yeah. So I think in the beginning, when you first start out with financial planning, you will pretty much work with anyone who can fall in a mirror. So if they have a heartbeat, they'll be a client of yours. But as you get on sound footing when it comes to your own personal finances, as especially as a business owner, you are no longer a W-2 employee, you are the business. So there is pressure there to make sure that you can sustain yourself. And what's neat about that, about working with a lot of different people, is you might not know what to niche in right away, but you start to learn about different problems and different personality types and different professions that you work with. But you can really hone in on to what type of people you like to work with. Maybe you want to just work with doctors, but you didn't know that. But then you start working with them and you're like, oh, I really want to niche with doctors. It doesn't have to be niching in a certain profession either. It could be, like we were talking about, niching in a certain area, like taxes or estate planning or budgeting or whatever it may be. And then you can niche that way. The nice thing, though, about niching is what Ben said, is that you can really you can really have the economies of scale, which means that you can hone in and do stuff extraordinarily well. You do a little bit of stuff, but you do it really, really well, so you can really grow your practice and serve more people in that niche better and become a subject matter expert, or SME as the jargon is, and then people start knowing you, and then you can really grow your practice around that and become one of the top in your field, which is really neat, especially as you start your practice and you grow into somebody like a Michael Kitchis, which is, he's mentioned here before, but he's like just like the Albert Einstein of financial planning.
That's true. We should just plug a little bit of Kitsis's blog, Nerd's Eye View. If you, if you're interested in this, and especially if you're not sure if the subject matter is of interest to you, you can pull up Michael Kitsis' material and start to read through it. And if you dig it and are loving it, then that's probably a really good sign. And if you're like, oh man, no way, I don't want to say it's an absolute no, but you may want to start to reconsider your situation because
he's a very smart man. Also, Wade Pfau, he is very, very smart too. He's very boring, but he's very smart. Really learn a lot from him.
So these are our content providers, right? Now go ahead, Lance. Yeah.
So most people will not be familiar with Kitsis and how to spell it, but it's Kitces.
That's right. Yeah, Michael Kitces, Kitces. Hopefully we're pronouncing it correctly. I think sometimes that gets mispronounced. Oh, good. But
Nerd's Eye, what is it? F-A-U. P-A-U?
P-F-A-U.
P-F-A-U, okay.
Yeah, two of those would definitely be some of the biggest thought leaders in our space. So Nerd's Eye View, and then Wade Pfau's work is a retirement researcher or planner, or do you guys remember his web link? We can post it in the show notes, but I think it's retirement researcher is his website. Something akin to that. Well, gentlemen, as we have just a few minutes left and we look to wrap things up, what would be some of the final thoughts that you might have in terms of either next steps or feedback that you'd like to give to someone who's listening to the show and who's again interested to learn more about becoming an advisor? Lance, you've had the most years of experience amongst us. We haven't really discussed some of the challenges you face as an advisor, and perhaps that's another show altogether. But what would be some good advice that you'd like to pass along?
Yeah, the longer I'm in this career, the more I want to give back. And so I would say that anyone on this podcast would be happy to help get new people started in the right direction. So if they wanted to reach out to any one of us, I'm sure we could get them pointed in the right direction and help them with understanding our career and our industry much, much better. I hire new people that are brand new to the industry here in my firm. And I'm sure there's others within our Catholic Financial Planning Network that do the same also. So just network, call, talk to lots of people, and find out. They'll help get you pointed in the right direction.
For sure. I mean, that's solid. Yeah. I mean, harkening back to the focus on networking, connecting deeper with the Catholic Financial Planners Network. We have monthly study groups which you could sit in and participate on. Maybe get to know a few members and then have a cup of coffee with them on the side could be a really wonderful way to get things moving along for you. Bryan, as you've been through the business and the career and looking back, it hasn't always been easy, I'm sure. We haven't really talked about some of the challenges, but, would you do anything else? Perhaps I would ask, how have you found the value or the benefit of working as an advisor, today?
It's really been incredible. For someone, and I just think the entryways that, like Lance said, into the field just show the variety of people that become financial advisors, and just the position you can take in people's lives to really make a positive difference. And just thinking, as obviously everyone here on this podcast, we're people of faith, people of the Catholic faith. And, one thing as an advisor and being so intimately involved with clients and their lives and their finances is it's a great place to really, really love people, really serve them as Christ calls us to serve, really an opportunity also, to shape your practice, to shape the way you serve them in a way that really glorifies God and really benefits those you interact with. So that's, I think, a very exciting part of our industry is that there's a lot of, I think, opportunities for us to integrate our faith in the work that we do.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Bryan. Yeah, just there would be few lines of work, I think, where you could be as expressive in your personal faith or foundation, or have that be a point that people find that they reach out to you because of, as in financial advising, just because the work is so personal and we don't necessarily hide behind, it doesn't get hidden away. Charlie, what about for you? What's some sound wisdom you'd like to pass along to the audience?
Yeah, I would say definitely pray about it. God calls us to a vocation, and It may be, if it's a lay vocation, definitely pray about where God's calling you to serve the ministry. It could be financial planning. It could be somewhere different, but definitely spend some time in prayer, because he'll show you the way eventually. Maybe not the time you want, but in God's time, he will show you.
Well, boy, amen to that. I don't know if there's anything else I could add to what you just shared there, Charlie. So it's just true of all of our lives and so much. So, well, everyone, thanks for listening and tuning in. I hope you found this show to be of value, especially for those who are interested. But even if maybe you were just casually concerned, perhaps you're even a client, you're just like, well, what do financial advisors do every day? Got to see a little bit of what our makings are. Please continue to stay tuned into Catholic Money Mastermind and our future podcast episodes. And, I'd be amiss not to remind you to check out the Catholic Financial Planners Network. We're growing there. Sometimes it feels like daily. We're certainly adding new members to the network. And, that Catholic Financial Planners Network is really meant to be an opportunity for Catholic advisors to work with Catholic clients, but other like-minded Christians and believers, and for us to be able to build up the kingdom of God. So please reach out and consider connecting with some of our advisors if you're looking for financial guidance or assistance. So, gentlemen, thanks so much for being on the call today and sharing your thoughts and wisdom. Really appreciate it. I know I learned a bunch, and we look forward to reconnecting with you again next time. Until then, God's blessings to each and every one of you.